G'day guys, welcome back to RC Chronicles. In today's video we continue my Tamiya VW Flower Power bus build. Guys, don't forget, subscribe and smash the bell. In today's episode we complete steps 13 through to step 18 of the build. Let's go over to the bench and get into it, guys. Alright guys, we're up to part B of the build, which means steps 13 through to 18 using parts bag B. So step 13 is the assembly of all 4 shocks. Interestingly, as I mentioned earlier, these are not oil shocks, these are friction shocks. The first time I've actually ever assembled friction shocks, so it'll be interesting. And the springs are in the bag there, so I will get in and build all 4 of these. I've actually measured the HSP ones that I've got against these, and unfortunately they are too big, so I will have to buy the mini VW upgraded oil damping shocks at some point in the future. But to ensure that the build must go on, because I want to get this on the road ASAP, I am going to put these on and then switch them over when I get a chance to buy the oil filled ones. So I will crack on now and build all 4 shocks. Alright guys, all 4 shocks are now built, and well, I can definitely see where people are coming from. They definitely have a damping effect, very springy, but they fit the construction. They go together very easy, but it feels very flimsy and it doesn't feel, I'm a bit surprised actually that Tamiya released a kit with this level of shock. It just doesn't feel like the engineering as it is at the same level as the engineering of the rest of the chassis and on other cars, and I really don't think it would have been that much more expensive to make, to put oil dampers, plastic to oil dampers even, in the kit instead of these. These seem, yeah, very basic and almost what you would expect to find on a toy grade car. I've actually seen toy grade cars with better shocks than these, so it'll be interesting to see how they go on the car. They're not going to be on the car for very long, I can tell you that. I am definitely, now that I've built them, I am going to start hunting for the cheapest that I can get of the on eBay or whatever of the mini shocks, for sure. They are pretty junky, but they're going on and I will see. So we will test them out here. The idea of this channel is for me to test everything out as much as I can and see how things work. So that is now step 13 done. Alright guys, I've got everything sitting here ready for step 14, which is attaching the front shocks to the front swing arms and attaching this front bumper onto the front here. There we go. There's basically slots there. Now, one thing I wanted to do before I do attach these is I just wanted to show you this what I meant before. I've got these, God, I'm gonna drop these HSP shocks off my Flying Fish, and I was hoping that they were gonna be a potential swap over for these, but unfortunately they are mostly correct size, aside from this lower arm here that attaches to the swing arm. It's substantially longer, unfortunately, and it just means that by the time I compress it down to push it into the spot, there's very little movement, so there's not much point using these. Just thought I'd show you the difference why I can't use them. So, having said that, I'll attach these two shocks to the front now, and then after the shocks go on, I will put this bumper on. I think it should be in that order. It'll make it easier to put the shock screws on. So, get into it. Alright guys, that's step 14 done. The front bumper is now attached, and so are the two front shocks, or whatever you want to call them. They kind of do the trick. They are quite stiff actually, which means it is probably going to be quite springy. So it's going to be interesting to see how well it goes, but they will be changed in time. Alright guys, we've got all the parts here ready for step 15, the M-05-L variant, which is the only parts you get anyway, so can't really make a mistake with it. Just got to make sure you use the right actual instructions. So there's the bottom mounting plate, and this here is the shock tower and swing arm tower for the rear end. So it's a matter of attaching these swing arms and then putting this on the bottom of the chassis. So I will get that done and get back to you. Houston, we have a problem. The completed part of step 15 seems to have disappeared into the ether. Poof! It's nowhere to be found, so we'll jump on into step 16. Alright guys, I've got all the parts laid out for step number 16. It is assembling stuff for the rear end. We've got the rear lower swing arms. We've got the shock tower mounted for the top, and we've got the rear shocks, 4 3x10mm screws, and 4 and 2 3x14 step screws. So I'll get all this together and come back to you with the finished result. Alright guys, in doing step 16, I realised that step 17 and 18 were very closely tied in, where bits were hanging and you needed to add another bit to get it to stop hanging. So basically I have gone ahead and just done step 16, 17 and 18, which is almost one step by itself really. It is, I built the lower swing arms, I attached the shocks to the shock tower, and then it was merely a matter of attaching the shock tower to the chassis, attaching the lower swing arms to the chassis, and then basically attaching the shocks to the swing arms. And yeah, saying it now, it sounds really like a lot of stuff, but it was all pretty much do this, then do this bit, then do this bit. It was all sort of 1, 2, 3 type thing, so I did it all at once. So I've now finished up to step 18. In general, the chassis is pretty much complete. There are just 2 plates that need to go on this side and this side, which will be spots for ESC and stuff like that, because the battery goes into this slot, of course. So it's coming along nicely. Everything's looking really good so far. I'm almost there, guys. I quite like this chassis. Only thing I don't like are the shocks. Alright guys, that's it for this one. The build is definitely coming along, and it's not going to be long before we can get this VW bus out and running. Really looking forward to that. Thanks heaps for staying through to the end and watching. I really appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. Good to have you. Please consider subscribing and smashing on that bell. If you're new, or even if you're watching and haven't subscribed yet, try to subscribe. It's easy. And then you won't miss any future stuff. Anyway guys, till the next one, I am Matt at RC Chronicles. Catch you later.